Hello, welcome to Inside Music Curation. I'm back here with the team from Feed Media Group, joined by my esteemed colleagues, the ever important music curators, dialing in the right music for the right people at the right time. Feed Media Group, we power music for apps and businesses. And today we're shifting the conversation a little bit. We've spent the last couple of years talking about mixes and soundtracks and, what should we call them, long form songs songs, playlists, the whole shebang. And today we're shifting a little bit to talk about clips. We're talking about music and short form content, right? I think we've seen an ever increasing playing field for short form content around the web, across social media, and more companies are entering this space. More and more short form content is a way that we communicate with each other. And every great piece of content needs a soundtrack. So when you're talking short form content, you're talking a piece of a song, a music clip, part of what was, previously a 3-minute radio edit. So excited to dive into this. Why now? Again, it's a growing medium for people to communicate. And since we specialize in helping people enhance their stories with music, enhance their content with music, we wanted to dig into it a little bit. We did touch on the subject 2 years ago now, right, Claire? It was 2 years ago that we talked about the TikTok music effect and how let's go back. 2 years ago, we were talking about how TikTok was affecting music, the effect it was having on the industry, and how the two were playing together. Who wants to kind of revisit where we've come from, or where we were 2 years ago when we started this conversation?
I can jump in. I think we talked a lot about the sort of changing the releasing of even singles, how now there's, in addition to the main single, there's a sped up version, there's a slowed down version, there's sort of like changing the editing around that so that it's more, suitable for different content forms and pacing. Additionally, that was helpful for us as a team that also curates heavily for fitness. So that was, not an unwelcome aspect of that change for us. But also we talked a lot about, the effect on catalog tracks, sort of making a comeback and finding newer and younger audiences, and sort of what that means for music discovery and promotion.
I think this was around the time of the I don't want to steal the thunder, but the guy with the Fleetwood Mac song and the skateboard, right? Like this was around the time of that, and we were realizing how, these songs from the catalog, songs from years back, were kind of resurfacing. I think it was around the same time that the Kate Bush song got really popular from its placement in a TV show, and so we're just seeing all of kind of all of the many ways that we discover and interact with music kind of intertwining, and we're seeing social media being this kind of amplifier for other music movements in other channels. Anything else you guys?
I think one of the things that's been interesting to watch, and we've been watching it for a while, I mean, if we wanted to kind of go back to a bellwether, or what do you call it, like a canary in the coal mine for what was going to happen in the 2020s, you wouldn't do much better than Lil Nas X's Old Town Road. So in 2019, that came up through social media and TikTok, and it blew up massively. It's still, I think, tied as the longest running #1 hit. It's now tied with Shabuzi's bar song, but that was less than a 2-minute long song. I don't think anybody was necessarily expecting it to happen. It was amazing, and we've only seen more and more of that happening, so that now, as avid followers of all the charts, because we need those to do what we do successfully, there's this really interesting the ecosystem, right? The connective tissue between TikTok and Instagram and Billboard and American Top 40. They're getting more and more interconnected, which is fascinating, right? And sometimes the inception point is social media. Then occasionally it'll be the inception point is satellite radio, but we normally see it going from social media and it just blows up. And one other data point really quickly. So where are we now? I just looked at the Billboard top 10 artists this morning. I was curious. I've been keeping an eye on it lately, and 4 of the top 10 artists right now found their way to the mainstream through social media. Justin Bieber, Sabrina Carpenter, Benson Boone, and Alex Warren. So it's continuing, it's pervasive, and it's I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah, I think there's how social media is feeding the larger music engine, and these folks are rising up to the top. But then there's also the disparity between the charts, right? There's what's on the Billboard Hot 100, there's what's in the top 40, and then what's actually trending on social media, and that's really not always the same, as we're seeing people use catalog hits and more. What else are we seeing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, me and Stens are like linked. It's crazy. This morning, I also looked at the Billboard 100, but I also looked at Spotify, Apple, TikTok, and Instagram. And what's fascinating is it's not necessarily the disparity between all of them, but the differences, right? And what type of music and or what type of sounds. That's the thing too, because like when it comes to social media, it's more than just music. It's sounds. It's even like people will make videos with like TV show or movie like backtrack going on, right? And so what's interesting about these charts is that they are different and they're specific to the type of usage, right? So like with TikTok, short form, so you're seeing a lot of like shorter clips, a lot of like songs, like for example, Mr. Fantasy by Mr. Fantasy. It's their number one song right now. Be honest with you, hadn't heard of it until today, right? But when I listened to the full track, it was like, oh, okay, this is a song specifically really made for like a TikTok type thing. Whereas like, when I looked at the Apple and or like Spotify charts, they're like somber, 12 to 12 was like one of the top ones. And honestly, I've seen that a lot on TikTok. But again, like going back to that whole like overlap, right? Where it's kind of like we're seeing now more overlap with the top 100 charts, but there's still a lot of distinguishable differences.
Yeah, I think people go to different platforms for different reasons, right? Like maybe you're going to YouTube to find, a 4-hour video with like lo-fi beats that you can focus to. Maybe you're going to, Spotify to stream a certain playlist for what you're doing. And when you're on social, it's really more about the creators, right? And what people are using to tell their stories. And so you're experiencing such a mix-up of different things. But I think what's really been successful on social has to do with songs that have moments that really help people tell their stories, right? And it doesn't have to be the whole song. Maybe it's the chorus, maybe it's not, but it's people finding these little moments, these ways to tell their stories.
Yeah, it's this like added layer of expression and integrating in a lot of cases music, but sometimes sounds from other places. If you think about social media and like someone's personal social media, even as a part of their personal brand, it's sort of the association with those songs or sounds that both add a layer of identity, and more importantly, an added layer of expression. And I find that, as with many things on the internet, there's often like a humor in it. There's a tongue-in-cheek element. There's like something of that nature that also really resonates, in addition. And then from the music side, sometimes it's like the chorus that resonates more. Sometimes it's a bridge. I've heard interviews where, like Phineas talks about, they re-released a version of the song that has the part that says like, from Billie Eilish, I don't talk shit about you on the internet. And it like that line is so perfectly suited for social media in general. And they knew they needed to like release a way so it's not buried in like the middle to end part, that it needs to be like up at the beginning also.
Yeah, there's definitely been a shift. I think folks are releasing shorter songs. There's a difference in some of the music creation also.
Yeah, I've been doing some interesting research on Afrobeats. And one of the cool things about Afrobeat is that a lot of its migration into the mainstream was really through social media. And seeing how that trajectory really like blew up a whole genre was really interesting. But what was even more interesting was seeing how the actual construction of their songs are mostly like a minute to a minute and a half. It's very short. But it's also been very good for them. Well, I mean, good for the genre because it's made it pretty big.
Yeah, the driving of recognizability from clips, I think, is huge. it's been pretty well documented that it's sort of the catch-22 I think we see a lot in music curation is like people don't like what they haven't heard yet. And so it's like, how do you introduce new music in a way for the warmest reception? And I think like clips is a huge way to do that. And that's why I think the music industry has leaned into short form content to really help break songs, break artists.
And I also feel like from a creator perspective, sometimes the reason that maybe the charts don't match, or sometimes the reason that they're pulling a song, from many years ago is you're going into your, creative self to say like, what song tells this story? Or maybe you even have a song in your mind when you create a piece of content. And I think it's tougher for the newest songs out there to live in your mind like that, and to have, what it's tied to. Oh, I remember what I was doing when I listened to this, Jimi Hendrix song or whatever it might be. I think that a big reason that catalog music does so well in social is that it's in our memories, and we're associating those memories with very specific feelings, which then when we create content, that's kind of where we're going with it. And I even wonder, I didn't make the relationship until today, but I almost feel like in the same way that DJs were sampling and hip hop was sampling these like sections of music from records, and they were just taking the breakbeat. And I feel like social media is almost a kind of a version of sampling, of like, hey, here's this piece of this song. And it'll be really interesting to see how, the musical genres evolve over the next few years as younger audiences are exposed to these moments of songs rather than, the full piece.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. I hadn't thought of that. So one of the people on our team, Mike, has spent a lot of time in radio and, actually programming radio. And now we're actually starting a new product called Feed Clips. So and I'm sure Melissa will talk about that more. We'll all talk about it more, but we're going to be, helping UGC creators and small apps and digital companies get music easily, legally, relevant, things of that nature. Mike, you've been a part of the getting this music ready to go. In what ways is it similar? In what ways is it dissimilar to radio programming?
I mean, maybe less with radio programming and more about being a music supervisor for a film or TV. I mean, if you think about it, like everybody who's creating content on social media, they're like mini film directors or producers, or they're mini, music supervisors. And, I think with Feed Clips, we'll be able to help them be better music supervisors by, like, Melissa, where you're saying like it's hard to kind of pull music from your memory that's going to match, a video that you're posting online. Well, we'll be able to kind of give little hints, right? Like here's a folder of love songs. Here's a folder of songs from the 80s. This way you can kind of go, it's like almost like a little cheat code for music supervisors. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more and more, social media apps are coming onto the scene. There's more niche platforms for specific communities being built. And as users try these new apps, they still want the same experience. They want that Instagram or TikTok music experience. So Feed Clips is our new product that helps new apps launch music features. And yes, I think thanks to these guys, the experts, they've spent a lot of time, going through the catalog and curating collections that really help people tell their stories. And I think you guys are exceptional at that, at finding things that are feel good or inspirational. And I think it can be a good service to creators that might have a piece of content. Maybe they don't have a piece of music tied to it, and lead them in the right direction.
One thing that I find with TikTok and Instagram, it's interesting because it's a somewhat of a finite list of songs that I can use for content, right? And it's also kind of not really organized in any fashion. And so in some respects, that's great because like a lot of other people are using these songs. They're probably really good, et cetera, et cetera. But in other ways, it's kind of challenging. It limits maybe the way that I want to express the video or the content. And so we've intentionally, what Melissa's alluded to, and we can get more specific about, is we've spent a big part of the last 6 months going through a massive amount of licensed, pre-cleared catalog that our business customers and the content creators can use. And we have painstakingly, with a decade of experience in fitness and health and wellness curation, we've painstakingly mined that. And then we've put it into basically 3 main types of collections. We've got genre collections, we've got eras collections, and we've got mood collections. And we just want to make it, as Mike said too, really easy to connect the dots. These are the best in class tracks that we have. There is not another company that can provide this to you, right? And I mean, and I'll say one more thing further, is that, yeah, the TikToks and the Instagrams, they can directly license deals with the major labels and the publishers. Bravo, that's fantastic, but it is extremely, even for them, challenging. And so for smaller companies, it's time and cost, impossible for them to directly license with the music industry. And so we're the intermediary that's doing that licensing. So the customers just have to worry about all the technical work that they're so good at.
Yeah, like all of our products, Feed is really here to empower businesses to integrate music, and while staying focused on their core product, right? Like, we handle the curation with these guys. We've got technical integration. We do all of the licensing and clearance and reporting. And it's really about enabling our customers, brands, apps, and their end users to have really great experiences that have, the right music to make it more engaging, to make it more meaningful. So it's been a really amazing project to work on with all of you, and see these collections come together, and look forward to seeing people put them to use. We touched on kind of the evolution, right? TikTok 2 years ago was already affecting the music industry, and songs that have been coming out even more so now. It's really a feedback loop. There's what's happening in music that's affecting social. There's what's happening on social that's affecting music. It's going to be really interesting to see how that continues to play out, how everything evolves together, trends in music, trends in content, and more tools that are helping people stay connected and express themselves. Maybe we can wrap it up and talk a little bit about some of your favorite viral moments from social. Anybody want to start off with a standout example?
I'll start off with mine because it's basic, but I love it. During COVID, one of the things that I kind of missed the most was going to the store and getting cranberry juice. Many people who know me know how much I love cranberry juice. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, born and raised on Ocean Spray. And so, on the day I was feeling a little bit down, my boy Nathan comes through on his skateboard, and he's skating to a song which I've heard a million times before, right? And after that video, I listened to that song a million times. Why? Because it gave me that feeling. It's like seeing that video, him skating, drinking Ocean Spray with just all the joy in the world, and then that song, right? It just gave you this amazing feeling, and I think that's one of the things that makes clips so powerful, right? Not only did Ocean Spray get a jump, you know what I mean? Bless them, but Fleetwood Mac was able to come, not even come back, right? But they were able to affect a younger base that probably never really heard Dreams, but now they do. And what's excellent about that, what I love most about music, right, is it connects people. So it's now you have this bridge of Fleetwood Mac going from, as old as 60, 70, all the way down to 15. So anyways, that's my spiel. I'm done.
I can go. Last April of 2024, I was messing around on TikTok, came across this video of this girl. Her screen name was Girl on Couch. And she made this skit where she was singing a song she made up in her head. And it went kind of like, I'm looking for a man in finance. 6'5", blue eyes, yada, yada, yada. And I made a comment on this video and I was like, and the drop should be welcome to the Hamptons. Fast forward to now, that stupid video has 60 million views. A song was created out of it using sampling her by David Guetta, which has 55 million streams on Spotify alone. And the comment that I had made on it has 130,000 likes. So it's just crazy to see how like just messing around on social media, creating content, creating a silly video can turn into like a massive, almost song of a summer, you know?
And they didn't use your pick, man. Our in-house A&R.
David Guetta did not. However, there were 6 or 7 versions before that girl eventually got signed to a label that some other pretty big DJs actually made using the Welcome to the Hamptons as the chorus. And I prefer those.
Yeah, I think those are 2 really cool examples of, like the feedback loop as we talked about, both, starting with, a moment that's resonating that brings light onto a catalog track that, especially as users of social apps are usually a little bit younger, discovery there. And then Mike's the feedback loop of social media informing music in kind of even a more different way than we expected. My sort of moment that I decided to look into kind of falls more in the catalog category as well. I was looking at, I'd been hearing the George Michael song Father Figure used very like cheekily in a lot of ways on the internet. And I was like, okay, like this sort of, I think got this resurgence from a movie that came out last Christmas with Nicole Kidman called Baby Girl. And so I was like, oh, let me pull up Chartmetric, because I'd really be curious like how that placement has both clearly affected social posting and then also like overall Spotify plays. So as far as TikTok posts, so I did, September to September, so a year, and with like a couple months before the movie came out, TikTok posts increased 2,000% using that song. And the Spotify plays were increased by 40% over the last year. So there's definitely like a real connection in both the placement and the use on social media affecting relevance and the song finding new users for sure, or new listeners.
Yeah, social media is such an amplification tool to take any trend happening somewhere else and just instantly multiply it.
Mine's probably a little bit of a niche experience, but early on when we were getting feed clips ready and we were all getting into the right mentality to be the, surrogate music supervisors we needed to be to empower content creators, one of our colleagues posted a very random, so I love pizza and I love hip hop. I know there's not many people in those categories. And there's a video clip of an older guy eating too hot pizza and cussing, which is perfectly synced to a Mystical line. And it is just hysterical because the rap song is saying the expletives and it's like chef's kiss. It's just so every time I watch it, I laugh because, if you love pizza, you've burned the crap out of your mouth, right? And so there it is.
Universal experience.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing some of your favorite experiences and for, as always, joining me on this live stream to talk music curation. It's really exciting to be talking clips and short form. And for anyone who is tuning in, please make sure to track us down at feedmediagroup.com. Feed Clips is coming soon, hopefully powering music in a social app near you. And we're back here every month talking all things music curation. I think up next, Claire, are we talking Taylor Swift next month?
Yes. October, we dive in to the life of a showgirl. So that's going to be, a fun one. And, we've been promised some Max Martin dance bangers. And so we're going to see if they deliver.
Yeah. So stay tuned, subscribe, follow, and we'll be back to continue the conversation. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.